네가 바란 대로 나는 될 거야 랩스토어 Looking for a build 더 늘어나는 팀 네가 싫어하던 게 늘어나.
Oh, yeah. Life just got sweeter now that WLFE-DB has merchandise. Show your support by purchasing your t-shirts for WLFE, Paratalk Radio, Inside the Drag Closet, and more. But it doesn't stop there. T-shirts, coffee mugs, tanks, buttons, cloth bags, and more. Go to WLFE-DB.com. On the top bar, click on the merchandise tab and bam, there you go. You got merch. Support the shows. WLFE-DB.com.
A small hollow in North Carolina. There have been several Bigfoot sightings.
Hunters may need to be on the lookout for something other than deer when they hit the woods this week.
He hadn't been spotted recently, but according to these pictures, the legendary Mothman is back.
The number of UFO sightings is soaring tenfold over the past 25 years.
Now, she's not talking about people. She is talking about ghosts hanging around what some say is a real-life haunted house.
You're listening to Paratalk Radio with Ted Wolf and Psychic Cindy on paratalkradio.com, a member of the WLFE digital broadcast family. Paratalk Radio is your one-stop for all things paranormal, the unknown, and the supernatural. Join us every Monday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Central for discussions and guests on topics such as ghosts, hauntings, Bigfoot, UFOs, and more. This broadcast is rated M for mature and is intended for listeners over 16. The topics, views, and opinions expressed on our show may not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of Paratalk Radio, our hosts, or our sponsors. Now, live from J-Wolf Production Studio in Ontario, New York, here are your hosts, Ted and Cindy.
Ha! Only one host. Cindy is in the back room right now. Well, her room. She's her blood sugar's a little low, so she's getting something to eat real quick, and then we'll have her on. Tonight's guest, man, I'm really excited about this. We don't talk to other investigators very often. You know, for me, doing it 36 years has been a long time, and I always enjoy listening to other people's opinions and what their experiences and stuff like that. And I know Cindy does too. Of course, we all know that Cindy comes from a different direction from all this. And, you know, I still haven't gotten used to my, like, looking at myself and my hands going the wrong way. So it's going to be a wonderful night tonight. I'm so excited about this. We have Randy Liebeck. He is a research specialist, a field investigator, and journalist covering the field of ghosts and poltergeist phenomena. Utilizing a combination of cognitive investigative skills and the latest in technological monitoring and detection equipment. Don't say that 3 times fast because you'll screw it up just like I did doing it slowly. He has conducted haunted house investigations throughout the United States and also in Great Britain. I'm so jealous about that because I still have not made it there, but I am doing Ireland next year, which I'm really, really excited about. He has had cases referred to him by individuals as well as universities, the news, media, attorneys, government agencies, and other research organizations, including the Rhine Research Center Institution for Parapsychology, which I have a little story about, and the Office of Paranormal Investigations and the Ghost Research Society, a career law enforcement officer, and a national security operations specialist with the U.S. federal government. He brings a lifetime of skill and experience as a police investigator to the field of paranormal phenomenon. So doesn't that sound familiar, guys? Because who do we have? We have Ernie and Dave from Step Into the Paranormal. They're both, well, Ernie's still a police officer. And Dave actually, when he got shot on the job, he retired. He said, I'm done. So I guess a bullet would do that to you. I don't know. I have no clue. And I probably shouldn't make light of it, especially since Teddy hurt himself today. All right. So hello, Mr. Bob Burnell. Hello, Barry Martz, Robin Joan Carter, Chanel Fletcher. Did I say Barry Martz? Yes, I did. It's nice to see you guys there. We have a whole bunch happening over on the watch party as well. Want to welcome everybody to the show. We are going to have a great time. Cindy is in the back room, but without further ado, I'm going to bring Mr. Randy Liebeck live and in person. You guys ready? I'm ready. Let's do this. Hello, Randy.
Hey, Ted.
How are ya?
I'm doing good. Coming at
you
you
got
from scenic, New Jersey.
That's cool. You got shelves of what do you got behind you? You do have some ghosts behind you. You have books and ghosts, and all I got's Godzilla.
Well, I got 3 walls of books, some ghosts, and the fourth wall is bourbon and single malt scotch.
Ooh.
So I have spirits of all definitions.
Oh, that sounds so good right now. But I'm in pain a little bit. It might numb it, but you know how when you cough or sneeze wrong and you pull a muscle or something? I think that's what I did because it's killing me. Oh, Mr. Robert White from Australia. Thank you for popping in here, buddy. It's always nice to see you. So, my first question for you is probably the easiest question of the night. Actually, there's 2 in 1. How long you been doing this, and when did you start?
Started doing active field investigative work late 1980s, but that grew on from a lifelong interest, a childhood interest in ghosts and hauntings. Did not actually do field investigations until I became a cop. And then as the folks I worked with, knew that I had an interest in the paranormal, that got me access to a couple of locations where, the stories, the every neighborhood has, its derelict haunted house with ghost stories connected with it. So I was looped into those early on in my career, and it's just spiraled on since then. The colloquial cop by day, ghostbuster by night, and I've been for decades now.
Hysterical. So, Randy, Cindy, Randy.
Hi. I just have to do this. Hi, everybody.
Yeah, she missed. Did you put lipstick on too?
I did. I was waiting. I had a couple of seconds. Now my lips pop too, Teddy.
Oh, okay. All right. So, well, I'm glad you're eating something because we don't need you passing out in the middle of the interview. So, all right. So, that's pretty cool because late 80s, I started in right out of high school. 1985 was when my graduation was, and 86 is when I really got into it. The first year or so was pretty much just a lot of research, and I think that's the way it starts with most of us. You have to get your education. So the best way to do that is, reading books, hearing stories, going out and interviewing people, and then going out into the field and trying to, collect some of this stuff that may fit within it, and see what's really out there. But I'll tell you, after all the years of me doing this, we're not really any closer to where we were back then, to be honest with you. The only thing that has changed is some of these god awful pieces of equipment, as they say, that really hasn't made anything better as far as I'm concerned. But that's my opinion only. But that's okay. Chanel says to Cindy, she looks lickably fresh. Don't tell real talk with Dom. Okay, Chanel, that's enough out of you.
Thank you, Chanel.
All right. So with your research, how do you think things are going for the future for the paranormal world? What do you think?
Oh, what a question to start with.
Well,
I'm not exactly very optimistic. The field has been co-opted by pop culture television personalities who, they're doing their thing. They're getting paid for it. Good for them. I'd like to get paid for it too. Unfortunately, the average person's knowledge today of the paranormal and ghosts comes exclusively from watching these TV shows.
Yep.
And they are getting an impression which is in no way connected with reality. You and I have both been doing this for decades, and certainly we do not encounter ghosts at every house we go to on demand.
Or possession. We are not possessed every time we go into a house. I just would like to say for the record.
Yeah, ghosts tend to materialize on these shows whenever the producer says it's going to show up.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's, well, as well as I do, and Cindy and I have talked about this 100 times.
Okay.
These TV shows are all about keeping you on the edge of your seat. They're all about, making you want to tune in next week. You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's all entertainment. And I do have a message for you, Mr. Randy, from Mr. Ernie Atwell from Step Into the Paranormal. He goes, "Holy crap, he looks like me."
He does, yeah.
You do look like Ernie a little bit, except Ernie's got the little beard thing going right now. So
I'm not going to be baby Baggins, Chanel.
There you go.
But I got the little beard thing going too, but you can't tell because it's
gray. Yeah, I it's happening. I mean, it's really see, I'm
you guys
ginger too, so I got some yen in there.
Just have to inform you of a very huge secret.
Uh-oh.
It's called aging.
Oh, that's one opinion.
Oh, leave it to Cindy. Keep us on our toes. Jeez. Barry Mart says to you, Randy, he says, "So true, Randy, there isn't a ghost behind every bush."
That's right. So
if ghosts could appear on demand,
God,
I wouldn't be doing this work. You wouldn't be doing this show.
Correct.
Because there would no longer be a mystery to explore or questions to answer.
Yeah. And it's amazing. Like for me, the question that I asked you about where I think we're headed, I mean, for me, it's like I said in the beginning, it's like I understand that people are trying to create new gadgets to help us get a little closer, but you have to understand what they are and what they actually do. But here's the thing. We don't know what a ghost is. All we know is it's an energy.
Sure.
So how do you know what device to use to
ding, 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 ding?
Because there are no ghost detection devices. There are no specter detectors.
Right.
There are, but throughout, ever since organized psychical research began, the different generations have employed whatever technology was at hand as a tool in the hopes that, hey, just maybe, this will show something. So it's taking everything, including the kitchen sink, throwing it at the wall and see what may or may not fit. Not many things have stuck over the years. In the 1800s, we would use, torches, piece of string across a doorway.
Now you're talking my stuff, old school paranormal. It's just, you used whatever was in your home or what you could scrape up. It was, a spoon, a fork, a knife, a ball, a
talcum powder.
Yeah,
talcum powder, rock salt on the floor.
Yeah, it was anything that you could find that in your mind would work to communicate or to find out if there's really something there.
The Carters said exactly what I said, right? Nor is there a possession every week.
Yes,
right?
They did say that. Yep. So, it's one of those things. I mean, I wrote a book called Think Outside the Paranormal Box. And the reason I wrote the book is because I'm a big old school guy. And I don't need a gadget to have funky little lights and a little noise to tell me there's something there because I can't prove it anyways. But if I'm going to try and prove it, I might as well put a balloon on the floor and tell it to move the balloon around or take it and float it up in the air 5 feet and bring it back down 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, it sounds like we're both more of the Harry Price and Peter Underwood.
There you go.
Investigator than the Zach Bagans School of Investigation.
That hurt.
But I mean, new technology is available, for every generation, every couple of years. And I have no problem with trying everything. Maybe one day through trial and error, we will find a specter detector.
Hi, Christy.
It just has not happened yet, despite what people claim. I mean, over the decades, there have been some intriguing results in some cases with electromagnetic field detectors,
right?
But not anything which is reliable. Nothing that produces on demand. I've worked cases where things were going on where we had other phenomena occurring. I've worked with psychics who said, "Hey, there's a ghost standing right now in that corner." I've stuck a tri-field meter in that corner and I've gotten rapid fluctuating movement, which stops. Right. Psychic says, "Hey, the ghost just left." That's happened a couple of times, but many more times, nothing has happened.
Right.
When supposedly there was a ghost in the corner. Is the detector actually detecting a ghost, or is the ghost, manipulating the needle?
Right.
Just to show us it can do it. Or is it just some ambient, natural geophysical field we're picking up, and it's coincidental that it's at a haunted location? We just don't know. I've used all of these devices over the years. Some I have, some I've worked with other teams that have it. I've not really been impressed, and I'm at the point where I'm not going to spend thousands of dollars myself, buying, speculative, devices.
Isn't that amazing? The prices that you pay for some of this stuff?
Oh my gosh, it's astronomical.
Yeah, and this stuff is all equipment designed for other applications. It's designed for environmental safety work, for medical use, for engineering use. The core devices might cost $50. You slap a label on it that says Spectre detector. Companies charge hundreds of dollars for it. So there's a cottage industry built up around this, and I feel sorry for folks who are spending a lot of money that they probably don't have.
Yeah,
being told that this will detect ghosts.
Now, I think it was last year, Cindy, you and I were discussing this at the studio. I did research to find out how much money was being spent per year for ghost hunting equipment.
Yeah.
And just the year, I think it was 2019 or 2018, was $1 billion. I was
crazy.
Like, holy crap.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of money on what? Ghost boxes that cost you $500, $600, $700. Now the SLS camera came out 3 years ago, and that was up there in price. And I think I went to. In fact, I got one. Hold on. I went to the dollar store, and I bought my own ghost hunting device. A jar with a candle in it. Okay? And it's got a hole on the top. But, this is something that I would rather put a camera on and ask questions and try to do some research with, especially repetitively, to see if I can make some sense out of it than I would spend $500 on a ghost box.
Mm-hmm. And if the flame, blows in one direction or the other when it's inside of the jar, there's no local geomagnetic effect, that can be blamed for that. There's something strange going on. So that level of technology, the old school approach, can actually be more effective for providing weapons. All of these devices you've mentioned, the SLS camera, the ghost boxes. I have issues with all of them for
myself,
specific reasons. But whatever our reservations are about it, our voices are drowned out in the cacophony of television shows, and the assumption by, 99% of folks with an interest in this field, whose reality is from these TV shows.
Now, do you think that, and Cindy and I have talked about this too lately, because all right, so Ghost Hunters, what was it, Cindy? 2000 Ghost Hunters came out, I think it was,
We're
somewhere
around
around 2000, 2002. But since then, we've had, 10, 15 different shows ever
easily.
since. And, the
Yeah.
majority of them have a piece of equipment that they're trying out that somebody lent them or whatever. But, I think the people that are watching this stuff now and believing everything that they're seeing, they are going out and purchasing this stuff. And I get it. It's...
First
First
episode of Ghost Hunters was October 6th, 2004.
Okay, so 2004. I was 4 years off. But, it's funny that, like, I'm going to put us in the same class and say our generation back in the 80s versus the generation of today, that's what they're into, is the gadgets, all the stuff that they see. They're not into learning the old techniques or styles and stuff that we did that might produce something a little more factual, maybe, or something that may give us a little more insight than a gadget that they're purchasing and they don't even know what it does.
Well, that's the key. Any equipment that's being used, first you have to understand what you're expecting to find with it.
Right.
I have issues with investigators and these groups that will go out to a location that looks spooky, an old abandoned house or a graveyard, and they run around, using these devices. I think it's pointless to investigate a location unless there have been reports by living people that they have experienced and seen things there. Otherwise, just do the investigation in your own house, especially like EVP work. Historically, most EVPs from the beginning of that technique was not out at haunted locations. People are getting voices in their own homes, or Friedrich Harrison, I believe, was out trying to record bird sounds out in the woods. So at least know what you're looking for.
Right.
If you have a piece of equipment, have at least a rudimentary understanding of why that piece of equipment might detect what you're looking for. Don't go in blindly using stuff, and know what the readings mean. Don't wander around in a house with a magnetometer, and when you pass a refrigerator, the compressor kicks on while you're walking by it, and your meter spikes. That's not a ghost. That's the refrigerator. I'm worried that a lot of folks don't know this. Not all. I've worked with some of these groups as a guest investigator. Some of them and some of the individuals with these groups are very knowledgeable. They have studied. They do have, to differing degrees, an understanding of the history and of the basic science involved. But the vast majority don't. They're groupies, and they're going out not to conduct research, but to have a social bonding experience with other like-minded people, and to scare themselves silly in the dark, have a scream, and then say, "Hey, we're ghost investigators."
Yeah, the enthusiast instead of more of the investigator, and we see that a lot, especially because I think the statistic on this, and this was probably 2 years ago too. It was 1,200 teams for the United States, and I think it's up over 2,200 now of just teams that get together and do stuff. And those are the ones that they have, actually tracked. But
and
hell,
that fluctuates because these teams come and go very rapidly.
Oh yeah. And the teams that they have over in like Australia and England and Ireland, Scotland, all these different places. What I found fascinating was a lot of those teams actually do some of the work that I do here using the old school techniques, but they've been around a lot longer than we have. Their houses, their homes, their businesses, their locations have been around so much longer. And I actually think that their research or the information that they have, I don't know, I think there's a key over there somewhere. I guess that's my opinion, but...
Well, with the UK specifically, if you talk with a random ghost investigator in the UK, you will find, in my opinion, in my experience, that they have a greater understanding of the history, of the science, of the basic investigative protocols. They can have more of an intelligent discussion with you about the subject than the average U.S. investigator.
Right.
Part of that is, yes, the culture of ghost hunting has been around a lot longer in the UK. In fact, organized ghost investigation started in 1862 in London with the creation of the Ghost Club. And then in 1882, I believe, with the formation of the Society for Psychical Research,
Yep.
which was an academic and scientific organization, which started applying the new fields of psychology and physics to approaching this. So that the culture of investigation has been around a lot longer in the UK. Also, a major difference is in the UK, there are national educational and coordinating bodies for this kind of stuff. The SPR, who I referenced, has a spontaneous cases committee. There are investigators who belong to that and are trained and sent out by the SPR to do field investigations. There's a group called ASAP, the Association for the Scientific Study of Anomalous Phenomena. ASAP is a national body, and they conduct training programs for interested investigators and groups that want to become affiliated. You go through their training program, you then attend an actual investigation, with the ASAP board. They watch to see if you've learned anything from the training you took. And if you meet, their level of satisfaction, you are certified as an affiliate of ASAP. So if a case comes up in your area, your group can be assigned to do that investigation, and it will be done with a standardized investigative protocol, using standardized forms, language, techniques. It may not be perfect. You or I may not agree with every one of ASAP's protocols, but at least there's a standardized protocol that's being used by this group. There is no such setup.
In the United States. No. Yeah, no, we don't. And in fact, I believe ASAP is the same one. I had a conversation with somebody there, and because I was doing my whole research on the gadgetry that we have here, and in fact, the young lady that I was talking to there was telling me that they went through that equipment that most people use in that area. They've already gone through and said, "Hey, this is garbage. This is garbage." Mm. They've already done that, and they only recommend a few things. So, I find it interesting that they do have everything on a level far more advanced than we are here in the United States when it comes to paranormal investigation. And I think it's phenomenal. So I always listen to them when something comes out. I receive different letters and stuff like that through my email from organizations where they try to keep us up to date with, new discoveries and all that stuff, which I love, and I don't always get to it. But, the United States, I think, too, we're so fascinated with the whole getting scared and getting our friends together, go out and be this enthusiast, that the whole part of the scientific side of it kind of just fails. It goes away. They don't care about it. You might get a handful of people that really want to do the research, and then they say, "Oh, well, I'm using the scientific method. Oh, I'm using, blah blah blah." But we already know that even trying to use the scientific method is damn near impossible, because first and foremost, you have to have a controlled environment.
Right.
Well,
that's the number one.
You're going to get a ghost to do it twice in a row, 3 times in a row. This is science research, Ghost. We just need you to keep doing this every time on command to prove that it is provable.
I'll disagree to a degree. You certainly can apply the scientific method to spontaneous case investigations. There are 2 types of scientific methods. There's the one that's applied to physical sciences like physics, chemistry, biology. That does not apply in our case to a degree. I mean, if something physical happens, if there is a alteration of the environment, yes, that's within the domain of physics or environmental sciences. But a large part of ghost investigations and parapsychology in general is a social science. It has elements of psychology and and neurology plays in there. But with social sciences, whether it's psychology, whether it's anthropology, whether it's sociology, you are not going to have a controlled environment. You are not going to have repeatability on demand. It's a totally different paradigm for social sciences. So I think we need to look at what we do within the scope of social science with elements of physical sciences. If some object, you have an apport, an object materializes out of thin air, you have a physical object, well, then yes, that falls in the domain of physics. You want to analyze that, check its molecular structure. But when people see and experience a ghost, they see something, they hear something, they feel something, they smell something. There are neurological aspects to that, but to a large degree, whatever we experience, we filter it through our own minds.
Right.
Psychological, you cannot remove that aspect from the study of this.
Correct.
And that fits in with social science. So definitely there are protocols for how you do that. The scientific method just means you've made observations.
Right.
Based on those observations, you make a prediction about if A and B happens, then I think C will be the result. You test that. You can test that in the field on a ghost investigation and see what happens. Then you continually readjust your expectations and hopefully come up with a hypothesis. That's how you do science in a haunted house or a ghost or poltergeist investigations. You don't do science by running around waving, flashing meters,
right?
That you really don't have a clue, what you're doing.
Yep.
Other than it goes beep and it sounds cool.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, we've over the years for me, a lot of this stuff, and this is what I tell people when they ask me how I conduct my investigations. First and foremost, it's education. You have to go in and the history of the place. You have to know about the people as much as possible. There's just all that history that has to come down to it first. And then, this thing of using the scientific method. And I've been on the end with a skeptic going back and forth, Mr. Kenny Biddle, if you're listening. And, I myself, and this is for some of us and I'm going to say some of us like myself, you really have to understand that if you let's say across the United States, you get 1 million people saying they saw a ghost. The basics of this tells me that somewhere in there's a base of truth of this, and we have to find out what it is. Yeah. You can't just shrug it off and throw it away. That's too many people saying this is happening. And you find the connections. You try to figure out what they saw and see if there's something that's within every single one that match up or doesn't match up. It could be exactly the opposite. So using the scientific method for me, I try doing the experiments. I'm like, okay, well, as well as I do, you're not going to get the spirit or ghost or whatever it is that's there doing the same thing repetitively 10 times. It's not going to happen. Okay. But for me, the collection of what people call evidence today, I call, hey, this is like an X file. Put it over here for now. Let's see if anything, kind of validates it or not, and then go from there and then find some more connections, connect the dots. That's basic, folks, and then go and say, okay, well, this is what I have. Make sure that you're documenting everything. And folks, for you that are listening, that means audibly, that means on video or pictures, witnesses, whatever you can get, because the more you have, the more that it validates what's going on and what's happening. If anything, even if we never get the answers, you have a pile of shit sitting over there of research and stuff that you've done in the paranormal field that at least somebody in the future can look at and say, wow, they were onto something. How did they miss this? Or, hey, let's finish what they started.
That's a critically important observation. Folks need to realize that when we gather evidence out in the field, we are not gathering proof. And I see so many groups and so many websites. What do? We present proof of ghosts or hauntings. And then invariably they have a website with 100 pictures of orbs, dust particles.
Oh, don't make me laugh.
So no, we're not going to prove anything.
Right.
Correct.
I consider myself to be a credible researcher, but if I went out tomorrow and got a photograph or a video of a ghost, a classic full-bodied apparition, and showed it to you, I showed it to other investigators, they're not going to accept it because there's so much fraud, there's so much computer manipulation. Unless, and same with me, if an investigator shows me, and there's tons of photographs, there's tons of videos. Everybody says, "Oh, look at this." Most of them, you can quickly rule them out as being fraud or nonsense or a misinterpretation of something else.
Right.
There are some out there which they're not a misinterpretation. I've seen photos and videos. You got two choices: either it's fraud, or by God, they actually caught a ghost.
Yeah.
But there's no way to judge that. There's no way for me to tell which is which. I am not a photo or video analyst. Even folks who do that, there's so much question and debate. Unless I personally know an investigator and have worked with them and have absolute trust in them, anybody that shows me, any kind of, really in your face, wow, evidence, I'm going to have severe reservations. Yeah, I would say, okay, maybe, but I'm not going to, stake my reputation.
Right.
On it. The other issue, which you alluded to, is the importance of maintaining documentation, for the historical record to be part of the compiled literature of the field.
Correct.
Right.
The problem with that is a lot of these groups, even the ones who are out there doing real, credible work and are following a protocol and are, recording, the changes in the environment, because that's what we're really detecting. We're detecting changes in the immediate environment that may or may not be caused by a ghost, but if you're doing it in a haunted location, and you want to see if those changes correlate with people's experiences and what people say, is going on. But a lot of these groups and individual investigators, they take their notes, they have some files which actually may be of use to the field as a whole, but they're never seen by anybody. The stuff is never published. That people may have boxes of case notes, of archives and recordings. That's it. It goes to their grave with them. I've interacted with investigators and groups who've had case files, notes, things they found, video and photographs that they took. Which, okay, maybe there's something there. And I said, okay, let's submit this for analysis. I know and work with people who are much more able to do that than I am. I know people who are much more experienced investigators than I am. There are organizations I'm affiliated with, the SPR, ASAP in the UK. Let's share this information. Folks don't want to do that. I've seen so many cases where there's a proprietary sense of ownership. Oh no, somebody's going to steal my research.
Yeah.
I'm not releasing this unless I get paid for it, unless I get a TV deal or write a book. Well, that's not going to happen. Which means this research, even if there's a nugget of very valuable information in there, never gets seen by anybody.
Right.
And that really concerns me, again, because there's no institutional framework, for this stuff to be archived, examined, debated. It's pointless to get, the ghost photograph of the century if you're afraid to share it with somebody because, they're going to steal it.
And that's something that we have discussed here. In fact, I've been trying to put together a.
We've been talking about this for a long time, and that was one of the issues that we had, and we've brought up several times, which would be that people don't want to share because they feel like they're the expert in that place, or
you're stepping on their feet, or you're in their territory,
your egos are going to be hurt. It's unfortunate that we can't be this open place, right? This open, have a set of rules or questions, have something.
Yeah, standardized. And that's why when my whole thought was that 3 years ago now that we would come up with a Northeastern what the hell did I call it? Northeastern something. But it was, and it still is sitting there waiting for me to do something with it. But it was basically reaching out to all the groups within the East Coast of New York and saying, let's work together. I mean, even if we can get 5 teams, 10 teams, 3 teams, I don't care, willing to share and work together to see if there's any connection in what we're collecting and we're doing, because we're never going to advance. We're never going to advance if we don't share our work, if we don't go in and have somebody analyze what we've got. I don't care if it's all of us doing it. I mean, I don't care, but somebody needs to sit down and go through the work and see what's, connect the dots or throw it out,
Because how do you know if advances have been made if the information is not being shared? An investigator may come up with some, very useful deduction or observation,
right?
But may be totally likely unaware that this has already been observed,
right?
And it's been explained, or maybe it's been shown, hey, this is something really anomalous. So I think you have 1,000 groups out there constantly reinventing the wheel.
and that was one of the other things, Randy, is that we have talked about and really discussed, because Teddy and I would go back and forth, and one of my things was, well, who's going to be the one person to curate all of this information, and does it travel, and who, and the thing is are you going to upload it each and every time, because you obviously need to have this database and it has to be pretty large. So is it going to be one team that holds on to this? Is it going to be shared? So this team has it for a year to 5 years, and then the next team, how does this work? How does this transpire? Because, people are then going to say, well, maybe they're doing something to the documents, or, you know what I mean? So you have to be able to keep it legit. And then, but who's going to enter all this?
And trust is the problem, because you can, like Cindy and I can sit there and say, hey, we trust you, Randy. But then there's going to be other teams that are saying, well, I don't know who he is. Why would I trust him? Or, what I mean? So
and even if a team or an investigator is trustworthy, there's a lot of turnover.
Oh, yeah.
In the amateur ghost hunting field. A group that you entrust your archives with could disappear.
Correct. Well, but that's why
a national body of some sort,
right? And that's what we had talked about as well. This national body that is an outside source, but then an outside source who's paying them. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And this was these are all things that we've had thoughts about, because
we've gone through
how
so
amazing
much.
would it be to log in to this database and be able to not only look for your specific address that you're looking for, and then boom, there it is, and seeing, okay, this is what's already been done. Okay, now when I'm done with this, I can upload my information and attach it to that. It would be amazing if we had something like that.
There's
correlations.
There's a U.S. model for that in UFO research, MUFON.
MUFON.
And it's affiliated chapters, and it's affiliated trained and certified investigators. Now, MUFON, there are some problems with MUFON. They've been in the news lately for not good reasons. But generally, the structure they utilize is a good approach. It's similar to ASAP's approach in the UK. But we have, again, nobody in the U.S. has set up anything like that.
Right.
The few organizations that we have, the American Society for Psychical Research, which is, for all practical purposes, completely defunct today. They are non-operational. But even when they were operational, they largely did not go out and do spontaneous case research. And when they did, it was done by affiliated scientists, academics. You or I would not be going out on an ASPR investigation. The Rhine Research Center does not do field work.
Yep.
The closest they have is one of their members of their board, Lloyd Auerbach, individually does spontaneous casework, but as an organization, we don't. And that's really all we have in the U.S. is the shadow of what used to be the ASPR and the Rhine Center. There have been organizations that crop up and go, which call themselves, National Ghost Hunter Society or International Ghost Hunter Society.
Right.
But they're not, and they never were. They're somebody's, personal passion project.
Right.
And, they come and go. So I would not want to entrust, archives or a database, with anything like that.
Right.
The discussion that we're having is important. I just don't know what the answers.
And that's
Right.
exactly where we have come. I mean, that's why it's been something that we've discussed for 3 years, right?
Yeah, it's just it's gotten to this point to where sorry, Cindy, but it's gotten to the point where it's like we've talked to individuals that are on TV. We've talked to people that are famous for that stuff. We've talked to people that have written books on it and so on and so forth. And over the years, it's all come down to the same thing, that it's people aren't going to do it. They're not going to work side by side. They're not willing to do this.
Right.
And
I
think
don't like XYZ, and XYZ doesn't like us.
Yeah. So
this isn't how they do it on Ghost Hunters International. What you're suggesting is obviously wrong, because you're not doing it like Jason. So there's no easy solution to this, and there may be.
Right.
That's why I said start with, I'm not very optimistic about the direction we're going. Because the paradigm is so established now,
right?
That our voices are lone voices in the wilderness.
Could you imagine if people thought that we should be all doing things like ZB?
Oh, like Zach.
Could you imagine, Randy? ZB is the antithesis of ghost hunting. Could you freaking imagine?
You're killing me, Cindy.
In the eyes of the average American, average TV viewer, and certainly in the eyes of the media, ZB is the ghost hunting community.
Right.
And I remember back in the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, I would get, if there was a report of a haunting or a poltergeist somewhere, even internationally, I would get called by a newspaper reporter, get called by a television producer, and ask, my opinion of the case. And, can I explain, some of the potential hypotheses that might explain what's going on? I don't get those calls anymore, because I'm not ZB, I'm not JH.
Right.
I don't have my own TV show, so therefore I'm no longer an authority. It used to be, but I'm not part of the In Club anymore.
Yeah, I mean the experts are those that are on TV. I mean that's what society, the normal TV person or the individual that watches TV believes.
I just find it hard to believe that anybody that's possessed every week on their show should be held as an expert in anything. Except melodrama.
Yeah.
You're killing me.
I've never come across a case of demonic infestation or possession. I'm not sure if that actually occurs. I won't rule it out.
Right.
There are cases which do take on that persona. The question I have is it really taking on that persona because of its nature, or is it mimicking stuff from popular culture, or maybe even adapting to the expectations of the investigators who go into a house and go, okay, there's a poltergeist case here. That means it's a demon. And then the phenomena, takes on that persona. I'm not convinced that any of these cases are demonic. And if one crops up where it is, and I'm open to the possibility, then that's the domain of, in my opinion, the domain of the clergy. It's not the domain of a lay, a ghost investigator, and certainly not the domain of a group of college kids who run around cemeteries saying they are battling and disposing of demons. That's ludicrous.
Yeah, and I'm with you 100% there. And we have discussed that level of 100 times on the show as well. And that's something that we've always tried to educate our listeners to, is that we don't pull any punches. We tell you exactly how we feel and what we think. It's very hard for us to believe that. Let's say you got 100 cases, and somebody says, "Well, geez, all the cases that I've done are all evil and demons." I get down to them and I say, "You're full of shit,"
All right.
because there's no way possible. There's no way. I mean, the amount in 115 to 120 cases that I've done myself, I've had 0. Okay, so
Right.
you can't tell me that the 100 cases that you've got, which has taken me 36 years to do, is that they're all demons. Give me a break.
Yeah. Folks are either lying, deluding themselves,
Or religiously,
or just interpreting normal haunting and poltergeist activity as being, oh, this is demonic.
Right.
Even though there's nothing going on beyond what we expect to see in a haunting, apparitional, or poltergeist case.
Well, you made this point earlier where you were saying that people misinterpret things. And that's another one of those things within the paranormal field, is whether it's your religious belief or social belief or whatever you have. Every time something happens that you don't expect, somebody's calling it a demon, somebody's calling it evil, somebody's calling it mischievous, and it doesn't, or the devil. You can't. Yeah, exactly. You can't do that. One of the things that still sits with me to this day is the day, and I'm sorry, Cindy, so do not get upset. Just relax.
Okay.
The day we had that gentleman on our show telling us that he has a demon around him, that anybody that talked negative to him would, in whatever reason, this thing would come and hurt them. And Cindy got so and I was right there with her because I'm a little calmer than her in most cases.
Come on, I bit my tongue for quite a while, and then
you did.
Started saying how he wanted to write a book to bring everybody's awareness and attention to it, and come on to shows and talk about it. I said, how fucking dare you put anybody at harm if you believe that anybody will be harmed if they don't believe you. That's
and you can't,
and immoral on your part.
Whether it's a TV show or a radio show or whatever, he would warn. He warned our own followers. Say, if you talk bad about me or this thing and you don't believe it, I have no control over it coming to hurt you. I'm like,
no control over it. It is going to harm you.
I am like, why?
Show.
Yeah, why are you here then?
I care about watching this.
I'm just so over the whole demon and evil thing. It's just, I
just don't want to get Zozo coming after you.
Oh my God, I got a Zozo story for you. Oh my God, I got one.
I don't know what Zozo is.
Oh my gosh.
What's Zozo?
Okay, so Zozo apparently is it the devil? I mean, it's something. It's like his right hand man or something. He's like an evil entity or spirit or something. And I had some gentlemen from an army base call me, said that they were using a Ouija board, and Zozo kept popping up on the Ouija board every time that they would use it. And apparently one of the people, it was spelling out the name, Zozo. And apparently one of the people that were there was being affected by it. And this phone call went on for like 6 hours. And I finally told him, I said, you guys, think rationally here, okay? Put the people that are using the planchette on the board on the phone. Put it on speakerphone. Let's talk. Every single one of these U.S. Army soldiers believed that this evil spirit was attacking them. I'm like, where did you get this from?
Oh, we know exactly where they got it from. I've been studying the field since the 1970s. And to a degree, I've also studied some aspects of demonology and the occult, because there are some, at least in popular culture, there are some overlapping, elements.
That is true.
So I've read stuff by Malachi Martin. I've read stuff by Father John Nicola. uh, who approach this from the theological aspect, alongside stuff by J.B. Rhine and Bill Roll. I have never come across the term Zozo in anything until JB started encountering Zozo, XOXO, in every case he goes on. And now all throughout at least the United States, investigators everywhere are saying, oh, they're contacting Zozo. And Zozo is the Zozo did not exist until Ghost Adventures created it.
Right.
But it's amazing as a sociological phenomena at work. It's amazing watching the creation of a concept totally out of the blue.
Mass hysteria.
And now it's mass hysteria, which has swept the country. I'll say this: my last thought on the demonic. That may exist. I've never encountered it. Nobody I work with.
Yeah, we can't say it doesn't exist just because we haven't. But
if it does exist, and you define it as theological demon, fallen angel with the same powers as an angel, if they really exist and they're being encountered, a group of college kids are not dealing with it by drawing pentagrams they're copying from a comic book,
right.
And talking about binding Zozo with a piece of burning sage. If they're really encountering what they think they're encountering, they got bigger problems because they're out of their league.
Right. Did you see this, Randy? Bill Davis put up here, Zozo came from the Led Zeppelin, and it probably was.
Wait.
From Led Zeppelin, and it came from the fourth album.
I have no knowledge of that, but I have no reason to doubt it.
Yeah, it's same here. I mean, I do remember. I mean, if I remember my theology right, because there was never anything about Zozo. You know, there was always fallen angels. There was always, the first, second, third, fourth ranking and all this other crap. I mean, there's always something, but I never come across Zozo in anything. There was one that was similar to that, and I tried to remember what it was, and I think it was a TV movie. Was it Poltergeist or Exorcist? Or I don't remember.
Well, you got Zuzu from
Zuzu. That's it.
Zuzu. Yeah.
Zuzu. Yeah.
Zuzu is an Assyrian demon of the spirits of the air.
Right, which was the locust and all that other stuff. Yeah.
But what was that from?
That was from
in the Exorcist.
Exorcist.
Peter Blatty,
2 or 3,
had that as the demon. But aside from that, it's an Assyrian deity.
Got it. There's a comment by Bob Burnell I would like to address, if that's okay.
Okay, hold on. Let me see what it is. This big one?
Yep. No offense to you all, but I like the fact that we have no standards here in the States. I'm free to wander down the path as I see fit, and I'm doing my own thinking instead of following a protocol where I'm simply following steps preordained for me to do. I think that is actually a benefit, not a hindrance. So, Bob, this is the thing is we're not saying we don't want you to do whatever you want, but what we want to do is the thought is have these preordained things, right? There's
just a standard form to fill out, if anything,
It's not saying you can't go and be creative. It's not saying, because we want that in there too. This is what I also did besides this. These are what the protocol says, right? And then this is what I further did with my research, because could you imagine? There are amazing creative ideas out there. We're not
everybody
to take away your creativity. We just want to have these. The thought is to have these standard things, right? And then anybody else can add to their own file, right? It's their file, and they can add to it how they so.
So simply, we're just saying we're looking for. Yeah, we just want everybody to fill out a standard form. You can go into a large database about their investigation.
Right.
You can do it any way you want, as long as like this part is done, and then it's there for all of us to review to see if it collectively matches up, or if there's anything there's a connection from one to another. I would never tell somebody how to investigate, because that's not my job. I can honestly say, hey, I could give you advice. I could help you with certain things, maybe point you to another direction, but that's up to you to take that. I would never, ever, ever in a million ways tell you you couldn't investigate the way you want to do it. We're just looking for connections, for people to connect so that we can actually try to advance the field to move forward. I think that's where we are at.
Well, that's the line of demarcation. Anybody with an interest in the field can go out and do their own thing, however they want to do it. But if their hope is to make some contribution to the cumulative knowledge of the field, add to the literature of the field, you do have to be aware of the basic science, the basic structure, basic investigative protocols. I think a good analogy is that this is an amateur field. There are scientists who do what we do, but only a few. For the most part, ghost hunting, poltergeist case investigations are the domain of the layman, the amateur. However, the amateur has to be educated to a degree and know something about the field. An analogy would be in other sciences, in astronomy, or they're amateur astronomers, people who have their own telescopes. They're out there. They're not scientists. They don't work for a university. But guess what? They're out there finding comets. They're out there discovering new planets. Just recently, the past few weeks, an amateur astronomer discovered a new planet orbiting a star. Wow. So amateurs can play a very big part in this, especially in our field, because there aren't that many scientists doing it. But whether you're an amateur ghost investigator, or whether you're an amateur astronomer or an amateur botanist, cutting and blending two different types of plants to create a new plant, and there are guys doing that. You at least have to have a background knowledge of astronomy. Right. You have to know something about botany. You just don't go blindly and say, okay, I'm going to point my telescope in the sky. Oh, and there are pretty lights up there.
Right.
I bet that is a spaceship from Zeta Reticuli. Well, no, it's a star or it's a comet. You have to have that level of basic background knowledge of the field that you're involved in, especially if you are going to call yourself a researcher, an investigator, or God forbid, an expert.
Right.
You have to have done the groundwork. You have to have read a couple of books. That's what I want.
Right. Yeah, and we're not saying watching 10 episodes of Ghost Adventures is going to do it for you. I'm sorry. I do want to make a quick point here. Another author that we know actually that has been on our show, Miss Kitty is on here, and she says, great idea. It basically establishes a baseline for an experiment. She is that's Kitty Janice.
I was going to say that Kitty.
Yeah, and it's nice that she's joined us. Hello, David Malone. Also Jeremy Bellinger. I haven't gotten to the watch party. I'm sorry about that, but
I didn't. Well, because they're in the watch party, they're not on.
Right. So I want to do this quick. I hope you understand where we came from on the answer to what you're saying there, Bob. We're very passionate people about the paranormal.
We just want it all. We want the part that could be scientific, right? The parts that we came up with to be like determined for science, right? And then we want to hear about the creativity and what did you do and what else happened, right?
Well, the basics of how things are discovered and how things are developed and created is because somebody went outside the box. In most cases, they stumble upon it. And so all I'm saying is that if we're going to try to advance the field of ghost hunting or paranormal research, any part of that, then we have to work together and in some ways sharing our investigations and the paperwork and the collective of all the stuff that we have will help us. Will hopefully create an arrow pointing to a direction for the future so that we know where we're going, what we need to do. Because as it stands right now, bottom line, we have no proof that ghosts exist. We have no way of telling you what they're made of. Bottom line. So we do have to take a quick break. Kitty, thank you for your comment. Appreciate that. But we're going to take a real quick break. Randy, we'll be right back with you in just a second. And guys, hang tight. We'll see you in like maybe 2 minutes, I think. Somewhere in there. 2 minutes.
Paratalk Radio is a member of radio.com. Download the app, search Paratalk Radio. One word. That's it. Pretty easy peasy. Radio.com.
WLFE DB Radio is on Spotify with all its great shows like Across the Pond, Inside the Drag Closet, Step into the Paranormal, Just Cindy, Where's My Sage, Unfiltered Talks with Bryce, Metal Mayhem ROC, Paratalk Radio, Real Talk with Dom, and more. So download the Spotify app today to stay connected to all your WLFE DB Radio shows.
You've been listening to WLFE-DB.com, where our shows are your shows.
Hey guys and dolls, this is Casey DeVille, the better half of DeVille Inc., Baltimore, Maryland. If you're ever in Baltimore, stop in and see me and Tony. Invisible Bree, 5920 Eastern Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21224. Give us a call if you're in the area, 410-400-9641. Or look us up on the web at DeVilleInc.com. DeVille Inc., where we specialize in you.
You're listening to WLFE DB Radio. Now, back to our program.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Welcome back from our quick little break. I've been sitting here talking with Mr. Randy Liebeck, who is an investigator, amongst other things. We haven't even got to the other stuff yet. We've been talking about the paranormal, ghost hunting, and the things that come along with it. And it's been a really good discussion so far. I'm loving this, to be honest. I have somebody else that has some really good background, somebody that knows his shit, to be honest with you. I'm loving this. Because
me too!
Ow, don't make me laugh. Ow.
Give me my candy.
Oh, my woman, you're killing me. Oh.
I'm sorry, lovey.
All right, so there's one thing I want to discuss before we get going here. Guys, if you have not heard, WLFE-DB.com, what we're on, we have 3 TV channels now off of Stream 2.0 television. So later on here in the show, just before we end, I'm going to play you the videos for those. It's really cool. We have a paranormal channel called The Paranormal View, where you can see all the paranormal shows off of WLFE DB Radio. Paratalk Radio is one of them. You can also go over, there's an LGBTQ Friends channel where you can go over and check that out. There's also a channel called... Yep, and then you can go and see Cindy's show on Variety Unlimited. She is over there on that channel, which is very cool. So I just wanted to throw that in there quick because I'm telling everybody else to say it, and if I didn't do it, I'd look like a jerk. So there we go. A brat, yes. All right, so let me check and see here for some of the comments that are in here, see if there's anything. That's 2 things.
Yes, dessert time.
Yeah, Cindy needs her dessert, all right. Chanel says, Teddy, I love tonight's show. So much to talk about. You're right.
Teddy had brownies earlier. I wanted a brownie.
Did. Bill Davis says, personal experiences and bringing a psychic with the team. Science. Done it. Yeah, Bill Davis also says science has not come up with any equipment yet to prove anything. Correct. So I do want to make a comment to this one, though, quick about the psychics on the team. Everybody knows, and we've talked about this, that one of the guys that when I first started reading, he had some books out that, and he was big into the psychic part of it and bringing in psychics and using them. And that was Dr. Hans Holzer. Yeah. And, you know, I've read his books. His daughter is a really good friend of mine. And even though there's some things with me that I don't, and see, this is one of the best things about the paranormal, is that you can take bits and pieces from other people's research, and I've done that with Dr. Hans, I've done that with Alexandra. You don't have to believe everything that they believe, but they definitely have something that they can bring to the table for all of us to use and to share. And that's the biggest thing about the paranormal. Everybody has something to bring to the table. I don't care what it is. There's ideas, fresh ideas. But you know that old saying? Let a fresh pair of eyes look at it. You've been sitting there for hours. Let a new fresh pair of eyes look at it. Maybe a new pair of ears for listening to that EVP. Hello, Farmer Damon Bard. There's just so many things that we could actually be doing to help each other in this research. And really, I think Paratalk Radio is one of them, that we can bring people like Randy here and we can actually discuss this stuff and open and broaden minds, and just people stop looking like this, start looking like this.
Right.
You
you want to put up Bob's?
Bob Burnell?
Yes. I understand collecting info from people. I get it. What I'm saying is I'm nervous to elect judges and people who are deciding what is good and what is not. Everyone has prejudices that can play into a decision on a piece of evidence. We do not know what is going on, so anything is possible. I get, but
we all get that, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
but it wouldn't be like it would be taken out and there's just like a body of people going, oh, this is not a piece of evidence. Chuck it. And that's not how it works. Everything is put in. If you follow these, that it's involved. Like I really would say that it's there. It's already embodied. Everybody is going to be their own judge, right? Because they look at it and they're like, oh, okay, I see this. It's not like there's somebody going, oh, this is real and legitimate. We'll keep it. This doesn't look real and legitimate. Let's take it out. That's not what we're saying, because that would be super closed-minded and that'd be just bullshit.
Yeah, if you're in this field, you can't be closed-minded in the first place.
Right. I mean, and I like what Chanel had said too.
I don't need
to prove to what I have seen and experienced is or isn't real. Some things are what they are, and that is enough for me.
And some people it is.
Right, because obviously, Chanel, we all know, and Teddy knows too. I'm a psychic medium. I'm not necessarily going to use anything. I gauge everything through how I'm feeling. It's a physical thing. It's what's going on, what I'm seeing play out here. It's what I'm hearing. It's like a physical thing. Am I going to be able to put in a document what I'm seeing, feeling, hearing, sensing, understanding? No, because that's not scientific. So yes, I completely understand. I don't need that kind of proof. I don't need the scientific proof because I already know that spirit exists. I already know blah, blah, blah. And that's okay if people don't trust or believe or understand things the way I do. That's their opinion. However, you couldn't use my stuff as scientific evidence. And it's mine because it's mine, right? So I still feel that everybody can have their own feelings psychically, but it doesn't necessarily mean it goes into that body of work that we're trying to procure as more scientific.
And we're not throwing out personal experiences. I mean, because I think, Randy, you'll agree, sometimes personal experiences can point to a direction, and sometimes it doesn't. But it's something to have, because you never know. You could go back to a location 100 times, and even though one person had one experience, and in that 100 times it only happened once, that 101th time that you went back, all of a sudden it shows up. Why? That's an anomaly. Okay. Right. So it's something you have to at least put down. So I'm just saying, personal experiences as well, we take them, we write them down, but it doesn't mean that it's scientific. That doesn't mean that it actually enhances or defaults the investigation or what we've collected. It just means these are the personal experiences.
Delegitimizes it.
Right. So we've been talking, but let's get Randy in here so he can give his opinion on everything we just said too.
Take Chanel's down now, honey.
Yep. I'll take it down.
To both Bob and Chanel, certainly personal experiences are important. there's nothing to investigate. There's no haunting unless somebody has had a personal experience
Exactly.
of the haunting. So all of this derives from an initial personal experience. But for Bob and Chanel, I will point out that absolutely, if you experience something personally and you believe it, nothing else may matter to you. If I am on a case and I experience something profound, let's say I come across the case, I'm skeptical of the demonic, but let's say I'm working a case and I encounter something that to me, that crosses my threshold for, hey, this is what I call demonic. That's a personal experience. Unfortunately, my subjective personal experience, like yours, is not going to be objective evidence to advance the science of parapsychology as a whole. So there are two separate aspects to this. There's what we want to experience personally, and then we base what we feel, what we believe. We may all experience something that convinces us that ghosts are real, that this is real. That's not our personal experience by itself is not going to convince science or the field as a whole. Our experiences are part of that, and if we are going to apply our experiences to the big picture, we do have to do that within the framework of the scientific method.
Right.
We can all go out and do our own thing based on what we feel, what we think. We can go outside whatever boundaries an institution or an organization says, but we need to know what those protocols are. We need to know what the Institution of Parapsychology says. This is what a haunting is. These are how a poltergeist case progresses normally 9 times out of 10. We need to know these things. We need to know what the basic investigative protocol is. And the investigative procedure is the same whether you're doing a police investigation or a haunted house investigation. Basic techniques of interviewing, evidence collection, documentation, setting up controls, exploring alternative possibilities. That's universal. We really do need to follow that as a baseline. Then if we go outside those parameters, at least know that we're going outside those parameters and be able to articulate why we've gone outside those parameters.
Right.
And doing that, even if you go outside the box, if Bob goes outside the box, that movement he makes may be the one thing which actually does reveal a eureka moment.
Right.
Because Ted, as you mentioned, after 150 years plus of organized psychical research, we don't have the answers. We have a couple of indications and a couple of directions that we're being told to look into, but we've not proven the existence of ghosts. We have no clue really what they are. What we know is that people have experiences.
And that's what most of them are based off of. So
we've not solved the equation. It may be, somebody who really goes outside the box, which is the tripping point for us to really, have the eureka moment. So absolutely, I support that, but just know what the basic protocols are, and then decide to expand beyond that.
Yeah. I think even having points in there, like in that document as we're discussing these things, though we are trying to have the science backed, right, and have the scientific method, put in there and try to legitimize this as a science, right? I mean, we have to put in the things. Is there a psychic on the team? What did the psychic feel? Were there any personal experiences that happened to team members, right? I mean, these are things that still need to be put in there. I mean, I think that's part of the whole experience, right?
Well, I don't think we should throw. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Randy.
And why you need to document those personal subjective experiences, it is critically important for the scientific method. If Bob and Chanel and I have a subjective personal experience, even if no one else is experiencing it, but if we are at a haunted location and we have those experiences in a certain room, in a certain corner,
Right.
And then we can go back through the collected literature of previous investigations and find out, hey, 20 other people had that same experience, that same feeling in that same room, in that same corner. That's something big.
That
That elevates it beyond just our personal subjective experience. This shows that we are contributing to the knowledge database of something real that's going on, and we can actually, to a degree, isolate that and say, hey, this spot, on Saturday nights at 8 p.m., I and 20 other people who don't know each other have experienced independently the same thing. That is science at work. And that's how we apply science to what we do.
Right. And that's 100%. I mean, I totally am with that. And we have spent so many years and just Cindy and I alone of experiencing things and trying to take things at a skeptical view, as a researcher's view, an investigator, of not putting our own feelings into this stuff, trying to be subjective. But there's proof in the pudding when you can have 10 people experience the same thing in the same location over and over and over at the same time. There's something there. It's kind of like ding, ding, that little light bulb should come on and say, hey, let's do some more research on this area or on this thing specifically, because you just can't rule it out. I mean, and that's why I say it's important, and Cindy does too, and I believe Randy is saying the same thing, that everything within your investigation, document as much as you can, because every little piece, it's just the smallest thing could make a big difference. That's why I say everybody brings something to the table. We can't rule anything out.
I mean, the thing is you also, because the reason you're even at that location is because of the personal experience, as Randy had pointed out, right? So that has to be documented in there as well. What was that beginning experience, right?
Yeah. And there's a practical point to that too for a field investigator. If you're going into a location and if people have reported seeing things, but nothing's ever been heard, there's never been any sounds, then you really want to focus your approach on visual, on cameras, on video.
Right.
Maybe using audio stuff is secondary. Vice versa, if people at a haunted house have heard sounds, but there's no reports of anybody seeing anything, then, I mean, use whatever equipment you have, but you really want to focus on the audio monitoring as opposed. So we need to know the experiences to even know how to address and approach the case.
Right. And as pseudoscience goes, I've seen that it's been made in a couple comments here that, the science is never going to accept what we do and so on and so forth. At this stage of the game and doing this as long as I have, I'm not here to try and make them waver on their thoughts at this point. I'm just trying to collect as much information as I can. That is for somebody else to do. Or if it comes down to it 20 years from now, if I'm still alive, then maybe I'll attack that. But for right now, it's my own research to go out there and quote unquote, and this is the beginning of it all, is when somebody asks you for help, it's to help them. It's not just to collect your data. It's also to help somebody. I mean, there's so many things here, guys. I mean, the whole thing of researching and investigating the paranormal, there's so many reasons, and we just have to put them in order in what's important and how we collect our evidence and our experiments and what we do. I said evidence, but whatever we call it at that point. But it's like, we just have to have some type of structure, or you do when you investigate, and put things in order. I mean, and don't, by all means, please do not go into somebody's house and tell them they have a demon and then leave.
Oh, Jesus, and then leave.
I mean, we've had that.
Out of here.
We've had that brought up to us. I had a team call me because another team was there and said this. Now this lady called me frantic, saying, "What am I supposed to do? I got a demon in my house." They told me they had a demon by a ghost box and then left. Are you kidding me? Folks, there comes responsibility with this as well. I mean,
the brevity of what you find
quote unquote.
What is right, quote unquote, because this holds a lot to the people you're giving that information to.
You're messing with people's lives, so you have to be careful in what you do. At some point, if it keeps getting out of control, somebody's going to put their foot down, and then where are we?
Right.
Think about it that way.
Technically, the study of ghosts, hauntings, and poltergeists is a component of a science called parapsychology.
Right, correct.
Parapsychology is, there are lots of skeptics. There are lots of people who are not happy that it's an acknowledged official science, but it is. The Parapsychological Association, which is the organization of record, which represents parapsychology and parapsychologists who are credentialed academics. And I am not a parapsychologist. I work with parapsychologists. But it is a science. The Parapsychological Association is a member of the American Association for the Advancement of Science, which means it stands alongside chemistry, botany, astronomy, psychiatry, psychology, infinitum. It is a science. Right. So there is a science that looks at this. Because of that, for us to have any impact in adding to the body of knowledge of this, we do need to operate within the structure of that established scientific paradigm. We can go outside that and do our own thing completely, but we need to recognize then we're doing our own thing completely. We are not participating in the expansion and the knowledge development of that science. But reality is there is more to what we do than just the pure science approach. I think it's three-pronged. I think one, we're trying to increase the body of knowledge of the field, which is the scientific issue. Right. Then there is a counseling or a basic human decency side to this, is that people who contact us, 9 times out of 10, they're doing it because they're scared to death of something they're experiencing. So we have an obligation as fellow human beings to try to mitigate that fear, give them some sort of explanation of what we think might be going on and calm them down. Then the third aspect of that triad is, yes, we want to have our own experiences. I want to see a full-bodied apparition appear in front of me. And if that happens to me, then I will know. I will know that was real. I saw it. I was not doing drugs at the time. I may convince no one else on the planet of the reality of my experience. But I, just like Bob was saying, or the others were saying, yes, I know this is real. It's my experience. That's part of it. I think we have to, play all 3 prongs of that triad.
I agree. I mean, I wish I had somebody like you when I saw what I saw. I have seen a couple amazing things in my lifetime, and only 3 out of all the years I've done it. But the one that it has shaken me to my core, to where I'm not sure. I mean, I beat myself up to this day, still trying to figure out what I saw. And when I first started out in this field, I was like, oh man, I can't wait to see my first ghost. I can't wait to do this, and I can't wait to do that. And, and just the research. But the day that I saw something, and that's all I can really tell you, was that it was a mass, and I had just even the real basics of my thought pattern just kind of like froze, because it was like, I can't believe I'm saying this. And, what we experienced, Cindy, with Jason, I mean, there are things that when you see something like that, you're just like, your jaw drops. You just,
crazy, yes.
Yeah. I mean, I saw, and I'll mention this again, I've mentioned it 100 times. I saw a figure through a lens, or actually through a monitor, crawl up the wall, go across to where the ceiling and the wall meets, and just disappear into the wall. I have been doing this a long time, folks, and I've never, ever, ever seen anything like that. And that's the one that shook me to my core, because I was like, wait a minute, what did I really see that? Did I not see that? And I went through 22 hours of video and none of it recorded. I went through all the audio. I went through all of this stuff, and all I ended up with, folks, was a personal experience. And to this day, I cannot explain what I saw. And that's it.
Other
I
than
can't tell you anything more.
the best of your ability of what you saw, not that you can believe even that you saw it.
Right. I have no clue.
So as you were talking about your personal experience, I see something out of my peripheral over to my side on my couch, and I'm like, okay, that was weird. And so I'm sitting here looking, okay, and I put my glasses on so I could see. I mean, there's a slight little bit that you can see through my curtain, but I just did my own little experiment with cars coming and cars going, and it was not what I saw. Because as you were talking, you were saying you said something about, I think you said something about a dark mass or something.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden I see this thing which is bigger than where it was that I saw through the curtain. So it could not have been. And so, which also meant that it was closer to me rather than farther away, right? So if it's bigger to my peripheral than what I saw, it meant that it was closer than the window, right? So I just thought that was interesting.
Cindy, leaning close to the camera. It was Zozo.
So this is the thing. I don't know who Zozo is, so I don't believe.
Oh, and keep it that way. Believe me, it's nonsense.
So I see that there's some personal experiences being loaded up here in the chat room.
My mama is in here.
Yeah, I see that.
Mama, Teddy.
Hi, Mom. Farmer Bart said, I found people who used to work at the Civic Theater without playing any video and audio from what they said confirmed what I captured.
Interesting. So, and he was talking about when he used to live
I think that was farther up in Missouri, I think, or something, right?
It's in M1. Minnesota. I was right. The former town I lived in, Minnesota, my home was haunted. What got me into searching the unexplained? Two places I was searching was a Civic Theater and my house that were both built in 1858. Both.
I mean, corroboration is important. I mean, especially if you're not forcing them to, of what they're telling you. I mean, I get that. Bill Davis, what is your comment here? All these years, I've only saw one recently. It shut me down for a hot minute. And that's what I'm saying mine did. It just shut me down. I couldn't believe it. I think when you do see something,
right,
I think that's the actual way you're going to feel. It's just going to put you in that moment of just like you freeze because you can't believe.
And there is a difference between seeing it here and seeing it here.
Oh yeah.
Two total different things. When I see things here, freaks me out.
So, all right. So, guys, if you get any questions, let's get them in here. You have a little bit of time left. What else you got in here? He says bathrooms, doors, and paper towels all over the place. Dark figure up tier 3rd floor by rear exit door. Shadow figure slowly moving toward the railing. Went over. Okay, cool.
Ooh, that's cool.
It's very tough and I know you guys were talking about this earlier too, with photography. Now, and I'm going to say this because I do believe that the research that he's done, especially since he is a photographer, if you do talk to Kenny Biddle about stuff like that, he can give you his skeptical opinion of what it could be. Right. I'm not saying you have to believe him 100%, but if you want another person's opinion, go to somebody like that who is a photographer that does know all this stuff. And if you need to contact him, I can give you the information, and he'd be happy to look at your photos and stuff. So,
did you see what Bill had said after that?
Let me see. This one, I was a no-show on my Friday show, Interface Death Weekly. Oh,
after that happened, yeah,
it must have really rocked his world. So, one of the other things I want to get to here with Randy before we run out of time, to be honest here. So
we don't run out of time.
with being a police officer, how did the transition go for you? I mean, both investigate. I mean, being a researcher and then being a police officer, you do that as well. But
how did did it help you or
Yeah,
prohibit
did it help you or?
It helped because before I went out and started doing ghost investigations in the field, I was a police investigator. So I'd been through the basic academy, then detective school. So I knew how to structure an investigation. And it's universal, whether you're investigating, whether you're doing archaeology, whether you're doing ghost research, whether you're doing a criminal or a civil case. I knew how to use equipment. I knew how to run surveillance equipment. I knew how to use thermal imaging from work. So that those skills, transferred right over. The biggest thing it helped me with was getting access to different locations, especially when we come across a governmental facility, a state, local. That the average ghost investigator is not going to have access to. I had some access.
Right.
The badge gave me a little bit of a entree that otherwise I wouldn't have had.
The benefit.
Right. Where are you out of, Randy? Where do you live?
I'm in Princeton, New Jersey.
Oh, New Jersey. Okay.
Done by Genevieve.
Yeah. Well,
so I was a police officer for many years. Currently, I'm a federal security specialist working for the U.S. government, doing threat management, anti-terrorism, counter-espionage, stuff like that to protect government operations.
Can I ask a question? Have you been in some of like the prisons in your area, like up and running, like that are working and running now? Have you been in some of the prisons, and what was your feeling on them?
I've been in lots of prisons. I did prisoner transport for a while. I'd pick up people and I would lock them up and bring them to at least the county jail and do transports to state jails.
Oh, wow.
I never picked up or felt anything at these places. But then again, I'm as sensitive as a brick. I rely on either equipment or witness testimony or bringing somebody like you, a psychic or a medium, to a location.
Please, if you want me to come, I'm more than willing.
Yeah. I not at a prison or a jail, but I have been to a few locations, and it's taken years. I used to be. I had no sensitivity at all. I would not feel anything. I'd be with 5 people. They say, "Oh my God, don't you feel that in the air?" I'm like, "No, I don't feel anything." Now I'm starting to. There are certain locations I've been to where I just have that sensation. Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. Something is just off. New Orleans, I felt that. Gettysburg, I felt that several times.
Are you going to come to Gettysburg?
Huh?
Are you going to come to Gettysburg, the Gettysburg Bash?
I'm not aware of it. I go to Gettysburg at least once or twice a year.
Well, August, what is the month? August, or what is the day? It's
I can send them the info. Send them the info.
But we do Gettysburg Bash, and there's a bunch of us investigators that
it's all paranormal researchers and stuff get together there.
It's a lot of fun, and there's lectures, and we're usually there too. But it's going to happen in August this year. It's usually in
July.
Or July, yeah.
Well, shoot me some info. I'm just 3 hours away, so
yeah, I will.
And Gettysburg, in my mind, both on the general research I've done and my personal experiences, I'm convinced Gettysburg is one of the most haunted places in the United States.
Oh yeah. I have to tell you, I've been in a few prisons, and oh my gosh. And you can tell the difference between a minimum security and a maximum security, just the energy that there have been places like, we have a big one here in New York, Elmira prison. And I'll tell you, it's foreboding when you are looking at this brick craziness, right? But then you just, as you get closer to this place, you can just feel the oppression, right? And then what was so hard for me was just the amount of dead people that would come to me. It was just one of those places. And then I even went to, and these are all state-run places, obviously. And there's another place. It used to be called Willard, and it was a state mental health place. And they since closed that down, but it is used for the Department of Corrections, and they have programs in there now, like if you're on parole or something like that. And that place was crazy, and you could just feel the mental illness. It was that crazy. I could literally see in my mind like all the dead people walking, and I had to ask one of the guards. I'm like, you guys get a lot of things about dead people? And he said, yeah, especially in the girls' camp, they get a lot of that kind of stuff going on. I said, it would not surprise me at all. And I, of course, did not tell him what I did. But it just was crazy. So I love that you're opening yourself up to it and starting to feel it a little more.
Back when I would routinely go to state prisons, I used to go to Rahway, Jersey, and Avenel, which is our sexual offender unit, and different psychiatric facilities. Back when I would go there for work, I was more concerned with watching my back and making sure I didn't get stabbed, by the person I was transporting. So I was not tuning in to the vibes of the location. I was, more in a, safety and survival mode. Now that I can go out and just do a ghost investigation, I'm picking up a bit more things. But for the most part, for vibes, I rely on folks like you. And I do want to point out one thing about using psychics and mediums on ghost investigations. I've heard different investigators and groups say, no, that's not scientific. We do it scientifically. We don't use mediums, or psychics. We use, equipment. So as I pointed out, using equipment is not science. That's a tool that you can apply to science. It's not going out doing doing observations, seeing what people experience, and then testing that and developing hypotheses. That's science. And using a medium in a location or a psychic is a tool like any other tool.
Right.
And if you say you feel something in corner A, I want to see if that correlates with a reading on one of my devices. Or if I get 3 people who say the same thing. The technique for using the psychic in these cases was established in the 60s by Dr. Gertrude Schmeidler, a parapsychologist. And her approach, which is a standardized method, when I talk about standardization for investigations, is to draw a floor plan of the location, make marks on it for your reference of where people have experienced stuff. And if there are rooms where nothing's ever been experienced, indicate that on the floor plan too. Then give a psychic or a group of psychics the same floor plan with nothing marked on it. Ask them to go through the location with a pencil, and any room they go into where they feel something, please mark on the floor plan.
That's cool.
And you send each psychic in one at a time so they don't collaborate with each other.
That's right.
And you compare the markings they make on the map with what people have experienced.
Right.
And you compare the correlation between the subjective psychic sensation and recorded experiences previously done. That's how you utilize.
Yeah, ruling the things out.
This is something that I think is huge. I love that you do that, and I love that that's like the thought that you would employ, right? I love that, because I'll tell you what, Bill Davis is in here, and Bill and I were talking, and I had felt, because he's in Florida now, even though he's from Jersey, he's in Florida now. And we were talking, and we were talking about a location that he was on. And we were doing exactly what we're doing here. And Bill and I were on this, and I said, hey, Bill, I'm thinking, I'm in this place where you're talking about. Mind you, I'm in New York, and he was at his house in his studio. And I said, hey, Bill, I actually am feeling this certain area of that location. And he's like, yes, that's exactly where we had activity. where something was that had happened to Bill, and you can rein in on this but we have it all on, it was on one of my shows, my Just Cindy show, I think it was. Yeah. And so it's crazy that even if a psychic medium is not there in person, that those things can still be corroborated by other people that have experienced it, that have been there, etc. Right? I mean,
and that's multimodal correlation, and that is significant. That's important, and that's valid.
Correct.
Okay, so I got to get to these questions before we.
You already had one back.
Yeah, I've got Barry's right now. We're going to get Barry's up. Question for Randy: do you have a piece or pieces of equipment that you think is reliable in paranormal investigation?
Two things.
That's number one. We always say number one.
To observe, to hear, and to interpret what I think I'm experiencing, and a pen to write down what I'm experiencing.
I'm gonna add to that, guys.
Teddy's book.
Flashlight recorder and comfortable shoes. Yeah. The basis of paranormal investigation. That's old school stuff. We make sure you have a flashlight so you don't trip and fall over anything. And basically have a recorder with you to record your experience.
A piece of white hair or silver hair.
You're going gray. You're kind of like the rest of us here in the world getting older, Cindy. You kind of made that plot earlier, so
I'm not going to have to dye my hair soon enough,
There you go. But that's what I did.
The camera is important. But the primary purpose of that is to document the location. To show here's where the bathroom is, here's the bedroom where people experience stuff. So you're documenting that for your case files. And if something does happen to show up, anomalous on the still image or on the video, that's great. That's icing on the cake. Same with audio recorder. If you're doing things, you're going into this room and you're setting up, this infrared monitoring equipment. You want to mention that into your recorder to keep a record for your logs. And if something anomalous shows up, on the audio recorder, that's great. But I personally would not sit there for 6 hours in a dark room, just staring at a tape recorder. That's right.
No, I really
also have to document if that noise that you can hear on the tape was somebody farting.
That's important.
Well, the thing is like when I tell people, they ask me about a camera, I usually tell them, take a camera or a video camera with you, especially if you got a digital recorder anyways, because if you do hear a noise and you have the digital recorder as well and the camera, see if where this noise happens, see if it kind of validates it, see if you caught it on both. That kind of helps and stuff as well. But I'm kind of going back here that Chanel had, but Cindy, will you stop playing with your hair?
I can't help it. It's so fun.
It's annoying. Anyways, Chanel says, this is a personal experience. I should be dead. I took enough thinking ambient. Right?
It's a sleeping aid. Ambient.
Okay. All right. As a suicide attempt that should have killed me, my grandfather, who died the day before, woke me up and made me wake my aunt and uncle and tell them what I did. He saved my life. So there's a personal experience that.
It's amazing.
What do you say? It was her personal experience. That's what she believes. It's what she saw. And for her, it's real. And I can't take that away from her.
It was absolutely a real experience.
Exactly.
In the literature of parapsychology, there are many, many reported cases almost exactly like that, where to the percipient, to the experiencer, it seems that a deceased relative is taking action to save them or to push them in the right direction. So that certainly could be exactly what happened. The other possibility is it was her subconscious mind, part of her mind that did not want to die, which came to the surface method as a last ditch method to save yourself. It's hard to discriminate between those two possibilities, and they're both possible.
Oh, yes! You better in.
You just got an offer there, Cindy.
This is where we're talking about was this place.
The Chiefland Theater?
Yes. And that I had picked up on stuff after. They weren't there, obviously. It was just him and I discussing and talking about his investigation, and it was pretty cool.
Well, I think, when it comes to investigations, I mean, we've got one actually that's hopefully we'll get booked here to Buffalo here soon.
Wait, what?
The Buffalo investigation we were invited to, remember? You don't remember? Well,
no,
I'm gonna do this then. Bill, she is having a squirrel moment. So that's what you're doing to me. You're having a squirrel moment. But anyways, one of the things with me is and I love investigating. I love the whole process of it. There are times where, yes, it is boring as shit, and there's a lot of things to review. There's a lot of things to check out. Your experimentation. To put in my 2 cents for the ending here of the show, because we're getting real close, is that, folks, when you're investigating a place, do not think that 4 hours or even 6 hours is enough time to investigate a location. It's not. To me, my investigations are ongoing. They always are, at any time. I have had other teams go to a location I investigated and contacted me and said, "Hey, did you have this happen while you were there?" I mean, and I've stayed in places 3 weeks. I've stayed in places long enough to know, at least for me, that I have done what I can do at that location. But for me, I tell people all the time, just don't think that 4 hours like what you're seeing on TV is enough time. It's not enough time for you to give an answer on whether a place is or isn't haunted. And the other thing is that there are no experts. You have people that have experience, like myself, Cindy, and Randy, and we can tell you what we've experienced and what we've seen and heard and so on and so forth, but we're not experts. We can just simply tell you what we've experienced to help you in your situation.
Yeah.
So yes, and Robin Joan just put it up there, Cindy, for you as a reminder. I remember the Buffalo investigation.
So I do want to say something. So Barry had said that Willard is a drug treatment center. It is a drug treatment center now. However, the only way you can get into this drug treatment center is through the parole and through how do I know that? Because I have firsthand knowledge. Not for me though. It's through the prison system, whatever.
You're too funny. You're too funny.
Yeah, it's a 90-day drug treatment center, but it has to be through the prison stuff.
And we've worked with other investigators that are police officers. And I want to kind of, just kind of share some information with Randy about that. Like with Ernie and Dave, and then Mike, from the police chief of Shepherdstown. We've worked with him as well. And it's nice to see now, and there's even one further. I forgot about Jack, who works with my team here, 33-year veteran, New York State Police detective. He actually does our initial field investigation where he interviews the people. And usually a police officer is very good at judging people right from the beginning to tell us whether he thinks they're crackpots, or that's probably the wrong words to say.
Yeah.
But, he
hardwired bullshit detectors.
Right. Well, he did one. He called me one day and he goes, "Ted, you don't want to do this one." I think it was Canandaigua. And I said, "Well, why is that?" He goes, "She has dancing potatoes and a unicorn in her backyard." Okay.
Blink, 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 blink.
So, it unless there's a serial killer out there killing paranormal investigators, I don't think there is at this time. You're pretty safe to do what you want, but please just be aware that there's a lot of other safety things you should be doing. Making sure you're not running in a location where there's no light. Make sure you take a flashlight with you. Please don't go alone. Make sure that somebody knows where you are or with you just in case you get hurt. And be respectful.
I never This is a huge thing. Never do a location by yourself. Never.
And as Cindy will tell you, please make sure that you're protected.
Protect yourself. Like, I don't care if it's water. I don't care if it's a necklace. I don't care what it is, but say a prayer before you go in, smudge yourself, whatever it is. I firmly believe in protecting yourself at all times. Absolutely.
Well, we got to wrap this up. So, Randy, have you got anything you'd like to say here at the end?
Thoroughly enjoyable conversation, and I like that it was a three-way actual conversation. And, so much to discuss.
Yes, we'll have to have you back if you'd like to come back, because I think there's so much more we could talk about.
Well, you guys haven't scared me off yet.
And I'm so afraid Cindy was going to scare you. She.
Stop it.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot that the paranormal field is so big, and this is something that I've said from the beginning too, guys, is that there are people that will disagree with every one of us here, and that's okay. We don't have to have everybody agree with us.
That's right.
That's one of the best things about this field, is that it's very subjective. Okay, yeah. We all have our own opinions. We all have our own ways of doing things, but it still comes down to, if we had one piece of paper that everybody could file into a big freaking database, that would help us all. Yeah. Especially if all of us had a way to use it. And I'm not saying this person's right, this person's wrong. I don't care. I just want their information. Yeah. That's all I want.
And if someone has no interest in doing that, if they don't want to be a part of the bigger picture, they just want to have an experience themselves, that's fine too. Yeah. As long as they understand that's what they're doing.
Exactly. I think that's the important difference, right? Knowing that.
Yeah, that separation. You have the enthusiast, and then you have the investigator. You have the people that are really into it for the science part of it, or to discover, and that's okay. I don't think that everybody has to be doing the same thing, even though it would be great if we all investigated the same. It would actually help us throw some things out or bring some new things in. But you deal with what we have, and we got to start somewhere. We really do.
Yes.
So that's it for me with that. And
so I want to just say this really quick. Barry says you're not even allowed on the Willards grounds today, right? Because it is a prison system. You only walk around the cemetery there. I have not been to the cemetery, but I definitely want to go there.
And that just brought up another point. Please make sure that you have permission to go to any of these places you go. You do not want to get arrested for trespassing, because that's just not needed. You don't need to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, you don't. So, real quick, Randy, you wrote a book, right? You're an author?
No, I've written magazine articles, a couple of poems. Haven't written a book yet. That might be my swan song when I go completely gray. But no book yet.
Oh, Cindy's catching up.
I read a lot of other people's books.
Yeah. There you go. Perfect.
Yeah, there you go.
To enlightenment, right?
Yeah. That's right. You got to read. Education is the key, folks. Education is the key. Get as much knowledge on this stuff that you can. And don't be afraid to reach out to an investigator that's been doing it longer than you. And even if they don't want to talk to you, there's always somebody else you can contact. Or you can contact us here, WLFEDBradio@gmail.com or paratalkradiohost@gmail.com. Either way, you can contact us here, and we'll do what we can to give you a hand. I think Randy will definitely are going to get a hold of you again. See if you want to come back on later on down the year here. We're booked up right away till at least May already, but it'd be fun to have you back and talk about some more of this stuff. I really thoroughly enjoyed tonight. This was great. I loved it.
Excellent.
So, all right, guys. Well, Cindy, do you have anything coming up that you need to discuss?
Let's see. Well, Monday we have us. Tuesday, I do Taco Tuesday, aka Tarot Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time till whenever Spirit shuts me down. And Thursday, I have my Just Cindy podcast. And Saturday, right? It's Saturday the 6th.
Oh, I totally forgot about that. Thank you.
6th is we are going to be on the show together. It's the 1-year anniversary for Talk with Teddy.
Well, and it's actually the WLFE special show. It's basically a live broadcast. It's basically all the shows that are on WLFE DB Radio Network is all, if they're vodcasts, I should say. If they're video, audio vodcast, we're all going to be together Saturday at 8 o'clock on WLFE. WLFE DB Radio on Facebook, doing a live show there, so that you can come and meet everybody for the network, find out what their shows are about, ask them whatever questions you want to ask, and that'll be great because there's the variety of shows that's on this network. Amazing. Like you, and you know what? We have four paranormal shows or 4 creepy paranormal ghosty type shows right now. We're always looking to expand that TV channel. Same with all the other ones that we have. So if you know somebody's looking for a home, WLFE is always looking. Bill Davis says, I would love to come on and talk about the investigation coming up. Well, reach out to Cindy and let's see if we can get it set up, or reach out to me and we'll set up a date and we'll see if we can get you in here before we get too far booked. That would be fun. Yeah. Okay. Yes, we will have Randy back. Barry, thank you for asking. I'm sure he would love to come back, as he said. So, all right. Me. The only thing I got going on is Saturday's show. I'll be hosting that show, and I'm the one that forgot about it, right?
I'm helping you out.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you. And
I got your back.
Guys, you guys know that I'm a huge Godzilla fan. Make sure you watch the new Godzilla movie that's coming out at the end of the month. I want your opinions because I'm going to do a special show on that. I think it's going to be awesome.
You're going to do a Talk with Teddy?
Talk with Teddy's gone.
Come on.
It'll be a special WLFE thing or something. But all right, folks. So, thank you so much for joining us here. As usual, you guys are great. We love you guys for hanging out and supporting the show, supporting the network. You're all amazing people. And, it takes a lot to tell your stories, just like our guests and ourselves. And we love you guys. We really do. And thank you so much for doing that. Cindy, are you ready?
I'm ready, honey.
Okay.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate you being
here.
Thank
you so much, Randy. If you want to hang out for a second, you can. We'll talk to you in the back room, or you can leave. It's up to you. All right. So remember, folks, wherever there is darkness, there's always
the light.
Thank you for listening to Paratalk Radio with Ted Wolf and Psychic Cindy. Catch us next Monday for another fantastic guest. Please check out our show as well as others on the WLFE DB Radio Network. And remember, like, follow, and share with everyone.
Join us at WLFE-DB.com for upcoming shows and so much more.